The Billionaire's Forbidden Obsession. Part 1, The Collision of Two Worlds. The Girl Who Became Invisible. Aria Bennett had mastered the art of being invisible. At 26 years old, she had perfected the skill of moving through crowded rooms without anyone noticing her presence. She served champagne at Manhattan's most exclusive events, cleaned up after the wealthy elite, and listened to their careless laughter about money they would never miss. Money that could change her entire life. Tonight was no different. The Grandeur Hotel ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and designer gowns worth more than Aria's yearly salary. She wore the standard black uniform of the catering staff, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, her face carefully neutral. She had learned long ago that wealthy people preferred their servers to be furniture with legs. "More champagne here," a woman dripping in diamonds called out, snapping her fingers like Aria was a dog. Aria smiled politely, refilled the glass, and disappeared back into the crowd. Her feet ached in the cheap shoes she had worn for 3 years. Her stomach growled because she had skipped lunch to save money. But she kept moving, kept serving, kept surviving. This was her life now. This was all it would ever be. Or so she thought. The moment everything changed. Aria balanced a tray of coffee cups as she navigated through the crowd. The charity gala was ending, and tired guests were requesting caffeine before their drivers took them home. She moved carefully, her eyes focused on not spilling a single drop. Then someone stepped backward without looking. Aria tried to dodge, but it was too late. The tray tilted. Hot coffee splashed across an expensive suit. Time seemed to freeze as she watched the dark liquid spread across pristine white fabric. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Aria's voice cracked with panic. She grabbed napkins from her apron, her hands shaking. "Please, let me help clean." "Stop." The single word cut through her panic like a blade. The voice was deep, commanding, and absolutely calm. Aria finally looked up at the man she had just doused in coffee. Her breath caught in her throat. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled perfectly despite the coffee disaster. His jaw was sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes were the most unusual shade of gray she had ever seen, like storm clouds before lightning strikes. But it was not just his looks that made her freeze. It was the power that radiated from him. This was a man who commanded rooms with his presence alone. "I said stop," he repeated, his gray eyes studying her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. "You are making it worse." "I'm so sorry, sir." "Please, I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I'll pay for a new suit." Aria's mind raced, calculating costs she could not afford. A suit like that probably cost thousands of dollars. She would be in debt for months. "What's your name?" he asked, ignoring her frantic apologies. "Aria. Aria Bennett." She wished the floor would open and swallow her whole. "Well, Aria Bennett, you have just ruined a $5,000 suit." His expression remained unreadable. "What do you plan to do about it?" $5,000. Aria felt the blood drain from her face. That was more than 3 months of rent. More than her entire savings account. She was finished. Completely ruined. I don't know," she whispered, tears burning behind her eyes. She refused to cry in front of him. "But I'll find a way to pay you back. I promise." For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, the corner of his mouth lifted in something that might have been a smile. "Interesting," he murmured. "Most people would have made excuses or blamed me for backing up. But you took responsibility immediately." He pulled a business card from his pocket, somehow still dry, and handed it to her. "Come to this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. We will discuss your repayment." Aria took the card with trembling fingers. The name embossed in silver letters made her stomach drop. Damian Cross, CEO, Cross Industries. Damian Cross. Even Aria, who avoided celebrity gossip and business news, knew that name. He was one of the youngest billionaires in New York, known for his ruthless business tactics and ice-cold personality. Magazines called him the Devil of Wall Street. Nobody crossed Damien Cross and survived professionally. And she had just dumped coffee all over him. The address of no return. Arya barely slept that night. She lay in her tiny studio apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering what Damien Cross wanted from her. Repayment, he had said. But how could she possibly repay a billionaire? The next morning, she stood outside the most intimidating building she had ever seen. Cross Tower stretched into the sky like a monument to wealth and power. Everything about it screamed money, from the marble floors to the security guards in designer suits. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, looking Arya up and down with barely concealed disdain. Arya was wearing her best outfit, a simple dress she had bought from a thrift store and shoes she had polished until they almost looked new. "I have an appointment with Mr. Cross," Arya said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. The receptionist's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Your name?" "Arya Bennett." After a quick phone call, the receptionist's attitude changed completely. "Take the private elevator to the top floor. Mr. Cross is expecting you." The ride up felt like ascending to another world. When the elevator doors opened, Arya stepped into an office that looked like something from a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the entire city. Modern art decorated the walls. Everything was sleek, expensive, and intimidating. And there, standing by the window with his back to her, was Damien Cross. "Miss Bennett," he said without turning around. "Punctual. I appreciate that. Mr. Cross, about last night." He turned to face her, and once again, Arya felt the full force of his presence. In the daylight streaming through the windows, he was even more striking. "How much money do you have in your bank account right now?" The question was so direct, so invasive, that Arya blinked in surprise. That's personal." "Answer the question." $347, she admitted, her cheeks burning with shame. "And you thought you could repay me for a $5,000 suit?" His tone was not mocking, just curious. "I would have found a way. Payment plans, extra shifts." "It would have taken you years," Damien interrupted. "Working yourself to exhaustion for a debt that means nothing to me. Does that seem fair to you?" Arya did not know how to answer. Nothing about her life was fair. The proposition that changed everything. Damien moved to his desk and leaned against it, crossing his arms. "I have a proposition for you, Miss Bennett. One that would clear your debt and change your financial situation considerably." Arya's heart pounded. "What kind of proposition?" "I need a fiancé." The words hung in the air between them. Arya was certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "I need someone to pretend to be my fiancé for 6 months, Damien explained, his voice as casual as if he were discussing the weather. "There is a business merger I am working on. The other company's CEO is a traditional man who believes in family values. He refuses to do business with me because he thinks I am too cold, too focused on work, too incapable of human connection." "So you want to lie to him?" Arya asked. "I want to show him what he wants to see," Damien corrected. "A man in a committed relationship. A man who is settled and stable. After the merger is complete, we will have a quiet breakup, and you will walk away with $500,000. Arya's legs nearly gave out. $500,000. Yes. Damien's gray eyes studied her reaction. "In exchange, you will attend events with me, live in my penthouse, and play the role of a loving fiancé. In public only. Your private life remains your own." "Why me?" Arya whispered. "You could have any woman in New York. Women who actually belong in your world." "Exactly. Women who belong in my world come with expectations, with ambitions, with connections to other powerful families. You are different. You have no ties to my business circles." You are not after my money or my name, you just want to survive. That makes you perfect. Arya's mind spun. $500,000 would change everything. She could pay off her student loans, help her sick mother with medical bills, maybe even go back to school and finish her art degree. But pretending to be engaged to Damien Cross? Living in his world? That was terrifying. And if I say no? She asked. Then you owe me $5,000 for the suit, payable immediately or through a payment plan with interest. His expression gave nothing away. Or you say yes, spend 6 months in luxury, and walk away wealthy enough to start the life you actually want. The contract of deception. 3 hours later, Arya sat in a lawyer's office, reading through the most detailed contract she had ever seen. It covered everything: public appearances, acceptable physical contact, hand-holding and brief kisses only, confidentiality agreements, and the exact payment structure. This is insane, she muttered, reading a clause about social media posting requirements. This is business, Damien corrected, sitting beside her with infuriating calm. I leave nothing to chance. What about feelings? Arya looked up at him. What if one of us actually develops real feelings during this arrangement? For the first time, something flickered in Damien's eyes. Something almost like sadness. That will not happen, Miss Bennet. I can promise you that. I am incapable of those kinds of emotions. Everyone is capable of love, Arya said softly. Not me. Not anymore. His voice was final, cold, and Arya sensed a story there. A painful one. Do we have a deal or not? Arya thought about her mother's medical bills. About eating ramen noodles for dinner every night. About working 3 jobs and still barely surviving. She thought about the possibility of a different life, even if just for 6 months. We have a deal. She picked up the pen and signed her name on the contract, sealing her fate. Damien's lips curved into a satisfied smile. Excellent. Welcome to your new life, fiancé. Enter the enemy. That evening, Damien took Arya to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in Manhattan. She felt completely out of place in her thrift store dress while everyone around her wore designer labels. But Damien had insisted they needed to be seen together immediately. Rumors needed to start spreading. Smile, he murmured, his hand covering hers on the table. You are supposed to be in love with me. Arya forced a smile, her heart racing at his touch. His hand was warm, strong, and sent tingles up her arm. This was fake, she reminded herself. Just business. Damien. The woman's voice cut through the restaurant like ice. Arya turned to see a stunning blonde approaching their table. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than Arya's car, and her beauty was the kind that made magazine covers. But her eyes were cold, calculating. Victoria. Damien's voice hardened. His hand tightened around Arya's. I heard you were dining here tonight. How cozy. Victoria's gaze swept over Arya with barely concealed contempt. And who is this? This is Arya Bennet. My fiancé. Damien's arm moved to Arya's shoulders, pulling her close. Arya, this is Victoria Sterling. The name sent a chill through Arya. Even she had heard of Victoria Sterling, heiress to Sterling Enterprises, socialite, and apparently, someone from Damien's past. Fiancé? How sudden. Victoria's smile was poisonous. Damien, darling, we both know you are not the marrying type. Whatever game you are playing. It is not a game. Damien's voice could have frozen fire. Arya and I are very much in love. Now, if you will excuse us, we are trying to have a private dinner. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She leaned close to Arya and whispered just loud enough for her to hear, enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart. Damien destroys everything he touches. Just ask his last girlfriend. Oh wait, you cannot. Because I destroyed her first. Then she walked away, leaving Arya cold with dread. The warning and the truth. Back in Damien's car, Arya finally spoke. Who was she really? Victoria? Damien's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. For a long moment, he did not answer. Then, she is the woman who destroyed my family. What? 5 years ago, I was engaged. Really engaged. To a woman named Sarah. She was kind, genuine, everything good in this world. His voice was hollow, empty of emotion. Victoria's father wanted to acquire my family's company. We refused. So Victoria befriended Sarah, earned her trust, and then destroyed her. How? Arya whispered. She fabricated evidence that Sarah was cheating on me. Photos, messages, witnesses, all fake. But I believed it. I ended our engagement publicly, humiliated Sarah in front of everyone we knew. His jaw clenched. Sarah tried to tell me the truth, but I would not listen. A week later, she took her own life. Arya's heart broke for the pain in his voice. Damien. I found out the truth too late. Victoria's father got what he wanted, my family's company sold for pennies because I was too destroyed to fight. Victoria got what she wanted, revenge because I had rejected her years before. He finally looked at Arya, and the raw pain in his eyes took her breath away. So no, Miss Bennet. I will never fall in love again. Because the last time I did, my blindness killed someone. The dangerous game begins. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Arya spoke. Is that what this merger is about? Getting your revenge on Victoria? Her father's company is now struggling. They need this merger to survive. I am going to take everything from them, the way they took everything from me. His voice was ice. And you are going to help me do it. Arya realized then just how deep she had stepped into this game. This was not just about a fake engagement. This was about vengeance, about a man who had been broken and was determined to break others in return. Why didn't you tell me this before I signed the contract? She asked. Would it have changed your answer? Damien's gray eyes pinned her in place. Arya thought about her mother's medical bills. About the $500,000. About the chance to finally escape her suffocating life. No, she admitted. It would not have. Then we understand each other. Welcome to the war, Arya Bennet. Try not to become a casualty. As they drove through the glittering Manhattan night, Arya realized she had just made a deal with the devil himself. And there was no turning back now. Part 2, Dangerous Boundaries. The penthouse of dreams and nightmares. Moving into Damien Cross's penthouse felt like entering another dimension. Arya stood in the marble foyer, her single suitcase looking pathetic beside her, and tried to comprehend the sheer wealth surrounding her. The space was 3 floors of pure luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, modern art worth more than most houses, furniture that belonged in museums. Your room is on the 2nd floor, Damien said, already walking away. He had barely spoken during the drive from her tiny apartment. My assistant left clothes in your closet. Designer labels, appropriate for the events you will attend. Wear them. I have my own clothes, Arya started. Which are not suitable for the role you are playing. His tone left no room for argument. You are my fiancé now. You will look the part. Arya bit back a sharp response. The contract had been clear, she would follow his instructions regarding public appearances. But it still stung, this reminder that she was not good enough as herself. Her bedroom was larger than her entire former apartment. A California king bed dominated the space, covered in silk sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The closet was a room unto itself, filled with dresses, shoes, and accessories she had only ever seen in magazine spreads. This is insane, she whispered to her reflection in the full-length mirror. The girl staring back looked lost, terrified, and completely out of her depth. A knock on the door made her jump. Miss Bennet? I am Margaret, Mr. Cross's housekeeper. He asked me to help you prepare for tonight's event. Tonight? Arya's stomach dropped. What event? The Sterling Foundation Gala. It is quite the important evening. Very high profile. Margaret's kind face softened. Do not worry, dear. We will have you looking perfect. Playing the part. 3 hours later, Arya barely recognized herself. The woman in the mirror wore a midnight blue gown that hugged every curve. Her dark hair fell in elegant waves down her back. Professional makeup made her eyes look mysterious, her lips full and tempting. Diamond earrings borrowed from Damien's collection sparkled at her ears. She looked like she belonged in his world. You clean up well. Damien's voice came from the doorway. Arya turned to find him in a black tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. He looked devastating, dark, dangerous, and completely in control. So do you, she managed to say. His eyes traveled over her slowly, and Arya felt heat rise in her cheeks. For a moment, something flickered in those gray depths. Something that looked almost like appreciation. Then his mask slammed back into place. Remember the rules. We are madly in love. We cannot keep our hands off each other. You gaze at me like I am your entire world. Can you do that? Arya lifted her chin. Can you? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I am very good at pretending, Miss Bennet. That is how I have survived this long. The gala was everything Arya had feared. Hundreds of wealthy, powerful people filled a ballroom that looked like something from a fairy tale. Everywhere she looked, she saw designer gowns, expensive jewelry, and faces she recognized from business magazines and society pages. Breathe, Damien murmured against her ear, his hand steady on the small of her back. You belong here tonight. Because you are with me. His confidence was intoxicating. Arya found herself straightening her spine, lifting her head. If she was going to play this role, she would play it perfectly. The performance begins. They moved through the crowd like royalty. Damien introduced her to CEOs, politicians, celebrities. Each time, his hand remained possessive on her waist. Each time, he looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch, even though she knew it was all an act. How did you two meet? A woman asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. She spilled coffee on me, Damien said, and the warmth in his voice sounded almost real. And instead of making excuses, she took responsibility. She was honest, genuine, and completely different from anyone I had ever met. I knew immediately she was special. Arya's heart skipped despite herself. He was good at this. Too good. And you knew right away he was the one? The woman pressed. Arya looked up at Damien, at those storm-gray eyes that had seen so much pain. I knew he was dangerous, she said softly, honestly. But sometimes the most dangerous things are exactly what we need. Something shifted in Damien's expression. His hand tightened on her waist, and for just a second, Arya wondered if he was still acting. Dance with me, he said suddenly, pulling her toward the dance floor before she could respond. His arms came around her, strong and sure. They moved together in perfect rhythm, as if they had been dancing together for years instead of hours. Arya was hyper-aware of everywhere their bodies touched, his hand on her lower back, her palm against his chest, the way their faces were inches apart. You are doing well, Damien murmured, his breath warm against her cheek. No one suspects this is not real. Maybe I am a better actress than I thought, Arya whispered back. Or maybe. He paused, his eyes searching hers. Maybe some things are harder to fake than others. The music swelled around them. Arya's heart pounded so loud she was certain he could hear it. This was fake, she reminded herself. A business arrangement. But her body did not seem to care about logic. It only cared that Damien Cross was holding her like she mattered. The first crack in the armor. The spell broke when Victoria appeared. She glided across the dance floor in a dress of pure white, looking like a beautiful snake. Damien, darling. Still playing house with your little charity case? Her smile was venom. How sweet. Victoria. Damien's voice turned to ice. Enjoying your father's gala? It may be the last one he can afford to throw. Still bitter about the past? I thought you were bigger than that. Victoria's eyes slid to Arya. Tell me, dear. Has he told you the truth about what he really is? About what happened to his last fiancée? I know everything, Arya said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. And unlike you, I actually care about him. Not his money. Not his power. Him. Something dangerous flashed in Victoria's eyes. How noble. Let us see how long that lasts when he shows you his true colors. Damien destroys everything he touches. It is only a matter of time before he destroys you too. She walked away, leaving poison in her wake. Damien's entire body had gone rigid. Ignore her. She wants to get under your skin. She already has, Arya admitted. Damien, what did she mean about your true colors? Nothing that concerns you. He released her abruptly, stepping back. I need air. Stay here. Then he walked away, leaving Arya alone in a crowd of strangers who looked at her with thinly veiled curiosity. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and suddenly very aware that she was completely out of her depth. The secrets in the library. Arya found him 20 minutes later in a private library off the main ballroom. He stood by the window, his tuxedo jacket discarded, his tie loosened. He looked exhausted, and for the first time almost human. You shouldn't be here, he said without turning around. Neither should you. You were supposed to be networking, remember? Sometimes I get tired of wearing the mask. His voice was raw, honest in a way she had never heard before. Tired of pretending to be the heartless bastard everyone expects. Arya moved closer. Maybe you are not pretending. Maybe that is who you have become. He turned to face her, and the pain in his eyes made her chest ache. Is that what you think? That I am just a monster using you for revenge? I think you are someone who was hurt badly and never learned how to heal. Arya surprised herself with her boldness. I think Victoria is right, you do destroy things. But only because you are terrified of letting anyone close enough to hurt you again. You do not know anything about me. But his voice lacked conviction. Then tell me. Tell me about Sarah. About what really happened. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then Damien spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I loved her. Completely. She was my entire world. And I destroyed that world with my own hands because I believed lies instead of trusting her. That was not your fault. It was entirely my fault. The words exploded from him. I was so focused on business, so determined to prove myself, that I did not see what Victoria was doing. I did not protect the person I loved most. And when Sarah needed me to believe in her, I turned my back on her. Tears streamed down his face, and Arya realized this was the first time he had probably cried since Sarah's death. She left me a letter. I found it after she died. It said, I forgive you, Damien. But I hope one day you will forgive yourself. And I hope you will love again, even though I could not stay to see it. His voice broke completely. How am I supposed to forgive myself for that? How am I supposed to love again when I killed the last person who loved me? The line that should not be crossed. Arya did not think. She just moved forward and wrapped her arms around him. Damien stiffened in surprise, then slowly, hesitantly, his arms came around her. He held her like she was a lifeline, and Arya held him back just as tightly. You did not kill her, Arya whispered against his chest. Victoria and her father killed her. You were a victim too. And you have been punishing yourself ever since. I do not deserve forgiveness. Maybe not. But you deserve a chance to be happy again. Even if you do not believe it. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the quiet library while the party continued without them. And Arya realized with growing certainty that this was not fake anymore. Maybe it had never been fake. Maybe from the moment their eyes met in that ballroom, something real had sparked between them. Something dangerous. Something neither of them could control. "Arya," Damien said softly, pulling back to look at her. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she had not realized she had shed. "This is a mistake. Getting close to me. Caring about me. I will only hurt you." "Maybe I don't care anymore," she whispered back. "You should." But even as he said it, his gaze dropped to her lips. The air between them crackled with electricity. Arya's heart raced. She knew she should step back, should remember the contract, should remember this was just business. But her body was not listening to logic anymore. "Tell me to stop," Damien murmured, leaning closer. "Tell me this is a bad idea." "It is a terrible idea," Arya agreed, her hands fisting in his shirt. "Probably the worst idea ever." "Then why are not you stopping me?" "Because I stopped being smart the moment I saved you from that coffee stain." Damien's lips curved into a real smile, the first genuine smile she had seen from him. And then he kissed her. The kiss that changed everything. It was not a gentle kiss. It was desperate, hungry, full of all the emotions neither of them wanted to name. Damien's hands tangled in her hair. Arya pressed closer, wanting to crawl inside his skin. The world disappeared. There was only him, only this, only the truth they had both been denying. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien pressed his forehead against hers. "We cannot do this." "The contract." "Forget the contract," Arya interrupted. "That kiss was real, Damien. And you felt it too. Feeling things does not change reality. In 6 months, this ends. You take your money and leave." That was the agreement. "What if I do not want the money anymore? What if I want?" "Do not." His voice turned hard again, protective walls slamming back into place. "Do not make this into something it cannot be. I am not capable of giving you what you want. You are just scared. I am realistic." He stepped back, ran his hands through his hair. "I am using you to get revenge on Victoria. That is all this is. That kiss was a mistake. It will not happen again." His words cut like knives, but Arya saw through them. She saw the fear in his eyes, the way his hands shook slightly. He was terrified. Of feeling something real. Of being vulnerable again. "You are a coward," she said softly. "You talk about revenge and justice, but you are too scared to let yourself be happy. Sarah would be disappointed in you." The moment the words left her mouth, Arya regretted them. Damien's face went pale, then flushed with anger. "You do not get to talk about Sarah. You did not know her. You do not know anything. I know that she loved you. And she would hate seeing what you have become. The threat that changes the game." Before Damien could respond, his phone buzzed.